Hey everyone, welcome to a new video. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you the most important aspect to selling ebooks and how to actually be successful with selling ebooks, but more importantly, the most important aspect. If you can't get this part right, the whole entire business is going to fall down. So let me kind of explain. I made a video 9 days ago just introducing this concept of how I was making money each and every day before I essentially am, I don't want to say fully exiting from this business because I'm still going to get into it, but I have over 70 plus websites that are all focused on selling some sort of digital product. Most of the time, it's an ebook. And the easiest place to begin is selling ebooks. Now, I created a video right here 9 days ago. I'll leave the link in the description on how I became financially free selling ebooks. My whole mantra behind financial freedom is having multiple different income sources that are diversified, that are safe, and more importantly, are protected because they are naturally diversified. And also the concept of passive income. I don't want to necessarily have to trade my time for money. I'm okay with investing time up front without an immediate return, but I don't want to have to trade my time for money. So I created this video 9 days ago, just kind of introducing the topic. You guys told me you wanted to hear more about it. So I created another video here 2 days ago, going a little bit deeper into it. Here we are, and I'm going to be sharing with you guys the number one most important thing to get started on this concept. Now, if you saw my last video, there was I guess you could say a set order to how I kind of described how everything should be when you're starting this ebook business, right? And I talked about how picking the niche was the first thing, and then after you pick the niche, you start building the ebook. While you're building your website, you have to figure out how you're going to drive traffic to the ebook sales page. We talked about how you have to have a sales page. So we talked about all these things, and like we kind of listed them out in a way in the video. So I'll leave a link in the description to both of these videos. I think they are important if you do want to get into this ebook business, especially the way that I've done it. And one of the things that I kind of talked about was finding the right niche or picking the right niche. And this is crucially important, but people kind of take it the wrong way when I mention the niche. The niche it's not about like interest. Some people will say, oh, I'm not sure if somebody would buy an ebook on this subject or that subject. When I say niche, it's not about the subject, right? It's not about the subject matter, but it's more really about competition. And the reason why I say that, because this is the most important thing, is because the competition is going to determine how successful you will be. And let me explain. If I pick a topic that everybody's interested in, for the most part, let's say fitness, there's a lot of competition there. If I just do a general fitness ebook, even if it's 10 out of 10 quality, no matter how good the product is, there's a very small chance that my product will get noticed. Now remember, what I'm doing, at least this was my strategy for the past 8 years, is that I would create a website and then I would create blog posts, and then those blog posts would market the ebook, and the ebook would be hosted on my own website. So I'm not really going to any kind of marketplace to sell this ebook. It's all hosted on my own platform. So in this case, right, what I'm doing is I'm really competing on a website level. I'm not competing on a product level. I'm competing on a website level. I have to make my website stand out amongst the competitors. If I was to compete against top websites like bodybuilding.com, for instance, or menshealth.com, there's no way I can compete. I simply cannot. No matter how good I am as a SEO or a blogger or whatever you want to call it, there's no way I can do it. These guys have billions of dollars. They have staff in the thousands. There's just no way I can compete. You guys follow me there? So really, the most important part is the niche. Once again, it's not the subject. It's more importantly about the competition. And in order for me to succeed, the first thing I do is I think of my points of interest. What are things that genuinely interest me? The next thing is my expertise? What are things that I'm naturally good at or naturally understand? So for example, I was watching videos the other day on how somebody was setting up their solar system. And what they do was they have a house in the off-grid, and they set up a whole entire solar system for their house. And they went so deep into it, and they were talking about amps and watts and watt hours, and they were talking about how certain appliances work well certain ways, and how certain things can't be used at the same time, and how they have to be wired separately, and how they have to have certain types of batteries and things like that. So that's somebody, for example, who's an expert, right? They may or may not be interested, but the point is they're an expert in that field. Everybody listening here today is an expert in something, no matter what it is. It could be cooking. It could be a certain kind of lifestyle, right? Maybe it's a paleo lifestyle, a health, certain kind of health, fitness-based lifestyle. It could be maybe how to raise kids a certain way. Everybody here is an expert in something. So whether you have an interest or whether you have an expertise in something, this is where you're going to drive the force to be able to find the niche for that ebook. A lot of people don't know where to start when they're selling their first ebook. Well, it starts off with an idea. Before you create a website, before you go out there and build something, or build an ebook, or write an ebook, before you do any of that, before you do any effort, you need to have an idea on what the niche is. Now, when I say the niche, don't think of the niche of the ebook itself. Think of the niche of the website, of the business, not of the ebook. Because what happens is over time, when your website is building traffic, you don't have to force yourself to only sell one ebook, right? You can sell multiple ebooks. You can expand. So, for example, if somebody is, let's say, selling a guide on how to set up solar off-grid, right, as in ebook form, right? So we'll write here solar off-grid, off-G, right? That's one niche. Now, people coming to this, right, this ebook and purchasing are a customer base of people who are likely interested in something related to off-grid, but for sure solar. So then you could think of, okay, this customer identity would probably be interested in other things. Maybe it's how to, set up a well system off-grid, right? Or how to set up a septic system off-grid. All these things play a part, and they can have their own revenue source. Do you see how interesting that works? This is the exact thing that Robert Kiyosaki did. For those who don't know, and we'll actually go ahead and pull him up here, we'll type in Robert Kiyosaki. I don't even know how to spell his name, to be honest. But Robert Kiyosaki, this Rich Dad, Poor Dad guy, this guy used to work at Xerox. He was never an entrepreneur. He used to take his money at Xerox and put it into real estate, like some houses to flip or get rent or whatever. And after he did that, when he worked at Xerox, he decided to come up with a story called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and he wrote this book. Many people theorize the whole history behind the book about how there's not actually a rich dad or a poor dad. He only has his own dad, and he just came up with this story to make money, which honestly, I really don't care. But the point is that once he actually created a whole bunch of different products, and his first product wasn't Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but when he came up with these products, right, he essentially utilized this exact same system. The people who bought a certain book or they bought his game, if you guys are familiar, this is his website here. The people who bought his game, Cash Flow Game, right? And actually, his whole purpose, the whole reason why he actually wrote the book was to sell the game. People don't know that. But when he essentially sell all these products, he took all that money and put it into real estate. I don't know if you guys remember, people who are members of the channel, I spoke about how when you make a lot of money outside of investments, like a lot of earning, a lot of cash flow, what you do is you take that money, you put it in real estate as a tax deduction, and it's really, more importantly, and it's an avenue to save wealth and not get taxed as high, and that's just the truth. A lot of people think buying real estate is for wealth production, and that's not true. That's really, really not true. There's very, very little wealth that comes out of that. What it really is for asset protection and wealth protection, right? So, for example, if Bill Gates has, let's just say, $700 million in cash, if he just lets the $700 million sit there, he's going to lose millions of dollars on a yearly basis due to inflation. And because he's a natural businessman, he can't let that happen. So one thing he'll do is he'll go buy farmland. Bill Gates is, I think, one of the biggest farmland buyers in all of America. But the point is, and I digress, the point is that this is a concept that people have used, and exactly what I'm telling you guys here, selling these ebooks and getting started, it's a concept that people have used from the small entrepreneurs to the very, very big ones. In fact, the guy who helps run this exact website was one of my mentors, who is actually retired now, and his name is Anik Singhal. And I'll go ahead and pull him up here. And Anik Singhal, this man right here, he's retired now, but this man, you could see 2 years ago he made his last video. This man made hundreds of millions of dollars selling ebooks and books in general. And I didn't actually start selling ebooks because he was doing it. I started because I knew that I had an avenue with SEO. I knew what I was doing from an SEO standpoint, and I succeeded with my business prior to the ebooks ever existed with SEO, so I knew I could just kind of replicate it. But this man right here, his whole kind of concept was running ads to a low-ticket offer. Now, what is a low-ticket offer? If you guys saw the very first video that we ever mentioned on this topic, which is right here, then you would know what this is. And this is a good test for you to see if you're paying attention. A low-ticket offer in the business world is typically an offer that is cheap, priced at a cheaper price range, and typically it's not a hard ask. For example, an ebook is a perfect example of a low-ticket offer. But what is the caveat that we spoke about with low-ticket offers? We said that ebooks are very interesting because if you sell ebooks like 99% of people in the world, what happens is you're going to sell them for next to nothing, and you're really not going to generate a significant profit. But what happens is if you do it my way, which is doing the niche down approach, which is why I said the number one most important thing is finding the right niche. And I'll teach you how to do that in this video if you could stay with me here. If you find a way to niche down, then you have the freedom to charge higher for your low ticket product. Now the question is, if you instead of charging $5.99 for your ebook, decide to charge $59.99, is the product still considered a low-ticket offer? The answer is yes or no. And this is a good test for you. Yes or no. And the answer is absolutely. It's still a low-ticket offer. Why? Once again, we've spoken about this. Because in the grand scheme of things, a $59 product or $60 product is really nothing compared to the different offers that are out there. I'll give you an example. Anik Singhal, the guy who we were just talking about, which is this guy right here, okay, he had a whole system. He had a low-ticket offer, a medium-ticket offer, and a high-ticket offer. And he actually had a super high-ticket offer. But that's really for the extremely advanced individuals, which, to be honest, even I don't fit in that category. But I'll kind of explain. He would run an ad, and he would sell it to a low-ticket offer. The low-ticket offer would be just a simple ebook, and he actually didn't make much money off of his ebooks. He used to charge about $14.99. Now, here's the thing. Anik had a lot of money over the years. He generated hundreds of millions. So for him, he could sell an ebook for $14.99 because he wasn't really niching down. He was targeting millions of people. So for him, he couldn't. I can't do the same strategy as him. I simply don't have access to 100 million. He spent hundreds of millions in ads. So he made a lot of money. But anyways, and I know this because I know him personally, but anyways, $14.99 is what he would roughly sell for a book. And what he would do is he would print the book for you and it would be shipped to your house, and you would also get the online version for $14.99. But then he would offer you a medium ticket offer, which was roughly anywhere from $500 to $1,000. Okay, $500 to $1,000. Now you might say, "What is this low? How could he offer a product for $1,000? That's a scam." No, it's not. What he would do is he would create these products that are tailored to help you, kind of like a course per se, around a certain topic that you would really need help with. So, for example, he had an advertising course that I was actually a student in one of his courses back in the day. We're talking many, many, many years ago. And he charged $997 for that course. Okay? And $997, like I said, to some people, they might call that a scam. But it really just depends on who's the purchaser and who sees the value. Not everybody's going to be able to see a value in a product like that. I personally did. I personally bought the product, and it helped me a lot along my journey. Everybody has different opinions on things. And what would happen is he would sell a lot of these. He would sell, in fact, hundreds of millions of them. And then what he had was the high ticket offer. And the high ticket offer was his private consulting. And his high ticket offer private consulting was roughly about $15,000. And it was essentially a coaching program. It was depending on how long its duration. If it was about 6 weeks, 4 weeks, it was around $15,000. If it was around 8 weeks to 12 weeks to 16 weeks, it was close to up to $50,000. It just depended on the situation. And he had this big office in Maryland called the Learn Academy. And you would go to the Learn Academy in person, things like that. So really, people look at this and they might not be able to wrap their head around this. But the truth is that there's a different market for every single concept. And the market size of the individuals who are willing to pay $14.99, not all of them, in fact, 99.9% are not going to be willing to pay $50,000 for a product. Okay? Now, when I said super high ticket, there are people who actually hire Anik, and he told me this one-on-one. He said there are people that hire him to do their copywriting. So if you guys remember, not from the first video, but from the second video, this one, we talked about some of the skills it takes to build a good landing page. And one of the skills that we talked about was copywriting. And what copywriting is essentially selling through the art of the written word. That's what copywriting is. There are words on a page, and you have to sell through that. And believe me, there's an art to it. It's not as simple as just saying, hey, I have this product, these are all the features, buy it. It's really not like that. In fact, one day, very soon, I will be releasing my own copywriting course. But for now, there is a very specific art to it. And Anik was so talented in the copywriting world, obviously because he made hundreds of millions of dollars, that he would actually charge people $500,000 to do one page of copywriting. Just one page. No edits, no revisions, no commentary, no consulting, just $500,000 for copywriting. And there were people that actually paid that. If you guys are familiar with Alex Becker, and I'm giving you guys all insider information, he paid Anik to create a webinar landing page for him for $500,000 back in the day when he had a product called SourceWave. And the only reason I know all this stuff is because I was in these kind of circles personally. That doesn't matter. That's not the point. The point here is that there is levels to this. So if you're worried about charging $99 for an ebook, or $59, or $75, or $47, you absolutely can. You have to get your head out of this idea that you can't, or that's unfair, or it's not right. Because you're thinking in a certain construct right now, the low ticket construct where it's like, oh, I can't charge more than $9.99. That's not the case. If you want to become extremely profitable and create a life of passive income, and more importantly, a really good financial life, you have to be able to charge more for your products. But, and here's the caveat, it has to be worth it. That's the thing. You can't charge a high price for something that doesn't deserve it. Nobody's going to pay for it. So how can we actually talk about that now? Well, the secret, and this is the whole reason why you clicked on this video, it all comes down to the niche. And let me explain. Once again, it's not the subject of the niche, meaning it's not math or science, it's not basketball or football, it's not fitness or, cross-country skiing. It's not the subject, but it is the competition. And let me explain. If I'm the only one selling a certain product in a market, I essentially have freedom over that market. Until I get a competitor, then I essentially have to adjust, right? So that's really what it comes down to. Let me explain. There's a machine called the cryotherapy machine, okay? In today's world, there are many of these cryotherapy machines created by many different companies. And the original cryotherapy machine was created, I believe, in 1974. And it had a patent on it. Now, if you're familiar, patents live or work for about anywhere from 15 to 25 years, depending on the patent, meaning nobody can legally recreate this item or its likeness depending on the rules of the patent. So there's some things called a utility patent, right, which is essentially how the product or how the item is being used and how it can be utilized. And so these patents last a certain period of time. And once these patents, essentially their lifetime runs out, then any company can recreate the product effectively. And, with their own blueprints, of course, but they can effectively recreate the utilization of the product. Well, cryotherapy machines only became famous recently because over time that these patents had finally ran out and the marketing kind of grew and the medical industry is kind of catching up to it. But back then, there was only one company that owned the rights to cryotherapy. And what cryotherapy is when you sit in this chamber that gets really, really, really cold and supposedly kind of helps your health. Now, whether it helps your health or not really doesn't matter. But the point is at the time, these machines used to cost about $250,000, about $250,000. In today's world, you can buy a cryotherapy machine, maybe brand new, highest quality for about $50,000, but you can buy one used for $10,000, $12,000. So why is it much cheaper now? It's not because the technology got better. The technology is exactly the same. It's literally a chamber that gets cold. But what it is that now there are many more companies, many more competitors creating the same item. That's the reason why the price will decrease by more than 100 times because of that very reason, okay? So you can apply this to so many different concepts, but niche comes down to competition. And if you pick the wrong niche in the start, a niche that is not competitive enough, or is too competitive and doesn't get enough demand, then you're really shooting yourself in the foot. The harder the business is purely dependent on the quality of niche that you select. In the next video, in tomorrow's video, I'll be sharing with you a perfect example of a niche of a website that I'm going to create. Now, I don't know if I'm going to create this publicly or not. We'll see. But it's definitely something that I am going to create for sure. But I'm going to share that niche with you guys here. But I want to give you a few examples or a few ideas so you can start thinking about this, so your brain can start simmering on this by the time tomorrow comes and we talk about this. But what do I mean when I speak niche? Let me give live examples. So I gave an example about this before. Let's just say you're a power lifter. Remember, you have to have either interest in the subject or you have to have expertise. It has to be one or the other, okay? Let's just say you're really into powerlifting, okay? If you write a powerlifting book or you have a website on powerlifting, it's going to be too general. You're going to have to niche down, okay? Why? To alleviate competition, but also increase demand in that specific niche. If I was to create general powerlifting article content, number one, I'm not going to be able to stick out through Google. But number two, I'm not going to have a raving fan base because people don't feel exactly the same way I feel. Okay? So let me explain. Let's just say I'm a power lifter that takes peptides. Well, then I can kind of niche down to a peptide, and peptides are kind of like steroids, guys. For the sake of the video, let's just assume they're steroids, but peptide powerlifting guides. I can do that. That will be a very specific niche. Now, the group that I might be able to target might be 94% less. It might be 99% less, but it doesn't matter. My goal isn't to target everybody. My goal is to generate sales. And you have to look at it this way. If you go general, there's a good chance you're going to make no money, especially if this is your very first business in this world, where you create a website, you're really going solo, you're going on your own, you're not depending on the marketplaces. If you go general, you're going to be eaten alive by the competition. You're not going to be seen, you're not going to get any traffic, you're not going to get any sales, you're not going to be able to have any motion. But if you go so niche down that you have a small fan base that really mess with what you do, they really like with what you do, they're really aligned with what you do, and they agree with how you go about things, and maybe either you're interested or you're an expert, you can now carve the way of, for that niche. Let's use another example. Let's use powerlifting again, and we'll have more examples here. Powerlifting again. Can't just go general powerlifting. Let's just say, and I used this example before, but let's say you create an ebook for powerlifting for seniors above the age of 65 plus. Believe it or not, there's a community of people who lift really, really heavy weights at the age of 65 plus. They exist. These people exist. Now, granted, it could be 99.9% of the market that you are rejecting, but you could be getting your very first few customers with this. And the only reason I say you could be, and it's not a guarantee, is because, let's be honest, I don't know the other person who's watching this on the screen if they're going to be willing to actually do the work necessary to get it done. Meaning create the book, create the articles, and maybe for you it's not articles, maybe it's videos, maybe it's TikTok videos, maybe it's whatever it is. But once again, if you watched the video that we created, I believe it was not yesterday, 2 days ago, we spoke about what you need for that. So I don't want to repeat myself, because obviously the people who are watching this video are the same people who probably saw the video 2 days ago, but you get my point. I don't want to keep repeating because it doesn't help anybody. But the point is that niche down approach, okay? Let's use a completely different example now, okay? There is, I forget what this is called, but let's use farming, for example. Okay, farming is a huge niche. There's commercial farming. There's farming for businesses, for small businesses. There's farming, learning how to make money in your local area type farming. There's all kinds of different farming. In the farming world, there's a guy named Joel Salatin. And Joel Salatin created his own kind of farming strategy that is essentially, and I don't remember what it's called, but essentially you have these pigs, and the pigs would be, locked in a certain area, confined to a certain area. And these pigs would be dropped in an area where the manure was of the cows. The cows at one point in time were locked in that same area, but they were grazing the land. When they were grazing the land, obviously they defecate. The defecation creates fermentation. It helps the soil, things like that. But the pigs go in there and they aerate the soil, okay? And they also have chickens where there's food dropped in the soil. The chickens also help with the aeration, and the chickens are moved from plot to plot to plot to plot, for different reasons. But essentially, it starts off with the cows. The cows are like kind of the cornerstone of this farming type strategy, where on an acre of land you can raise a lot of cows compared to typical farming strategies, because they'll be grazing in one area, then the next day they'll be moved. And the thing about cows is that if they step on grass and the grass is trampled, they're not going to go in and eat it, even if it's still healthy, long grass. They don't do it. So they're moved from plot to plot to plot within an acre. And then this whole period of like moving animals around, things like that, which is more, I guess you could say, cost effective and extremely helpful to the environment, things like that. So Joel Salatin essentially created his own kind of farming strategy. And from that, there are these homesteaders which is a perfect niche for him. These homesteaders that really don't have that much money and don't have that much land take his strategies and found wonderful results. Well, he carved his own niche, and he niched down by targeting people with the types of content that he was putting out on his articles, and he was actually doing the exact same thing. He was creating articles and newsletters. He essentially targeting them by talking about the most cost-effective ways to do things. Well, guess who's trying to figure out the most cost-effective ways to feed their family? Homesteaders who happen to be in farming. Essentially, every homesteader is pretty much in farming, but you get my point. So it created this niche for him. He carved this niche that was a perfect fit. Let's think of another strategy, okay? Woodworking. Woodworking is a huge niche, and we're kind of, when we niche down, there's levels to how far we can niche down. But let's think of woodworking. In the woodworking world, right, there's different styles of how people can do their carpentry. Japanese woodworking is a very specific kind. There is the amount of people that are genuinely interested in woodworking is a lot more. Maybe it could be 25 times more than the people who are interested in Japanese woodworking. In other words, this could be 5% or less. It could even be 4% of the community size than general woodworking. It's much smaller. But when you create the articles or the content or the videos or whatever you want, the traffic source that drives the people related to this concept, now these people are much easier. It's much easier for them to find you because there's less of this being produced. But more importantly, it aligns with them much more. And if it aligns with them much more, then it makes much more sense to go that avenue from a consumer standpoint and purchase a product from you. In this case, it could be an ebook. And once again, the reason why we recommended ebooks, because number one, every time you sell one, you don't have to be there. You don't have to, it's not like consulting or anything like that. You're there to help, right? The ebook is there, but it sells itself. It does the work for you, right? It's not like you're trading your time for money. So that's a perfect example. Can we think of another example? Well, let's think of, I'm trying to think. All right, so we did the solar power example earlier, because there's like different worlds of solar. I'm trying to think of another example yet again. Here, there's a guy on YouTube that back in the day, he used to have this blog about microphones. His name was ODI Productions. He's actually an affiliate marketer now. But ODI Productions. And what he would do is he would review microphones. Now, there's a lot of people who are in the microphone space. It could be a podcaster who's looking for a microphone. It could be a singer who's looking for a microphone. It could be, God knows. The list goes on and on and on. The amount of people who need a microphone, you guys know. The list can go on and on and on. But he created blogs around reviewing microphones. His name is ODI Productions, specifically to review these type of microphones and to help his audience out. Now, granted, he didn't sell ebooks, at least not that I know of, but he did generate income from affiliate marketing, which, by the way, I did say, and this is why I say it's so important for you to go back and watch that video. But this first video here, and I'll leave a link in the description, the financial freedom video was selling ebooks. There are 4 different products that you can sell when you create the system that we've been talking about, which is, the first one is a digital product, so an ebook, for example. The second one is a physical product, which I've spoken about my experience doing that. The third one is a membership type product, so like a newsletter, for example. And then the fourth one is a service, for example, consulting, or it could be a digital marketing service or whatever. These type of products, right, you can all sell from a blog/website. And when I say blog, once again, people's kind of the hairs on the back of their head stand up because they are really, really opposed to doing any kind of work, right? They're used to the stock photography model where AI is doing everything for them. We utilize AI in our workflow, but we cannot let that conquer the workflow and be the only thing. Why? Because who is the main engine that we are relying on to make this work. For me personally, guys, it's Google. If you're relying on TikTok, it's the same thing. I mean, you're not going to be able to fully use AI here. If you're relying on YouTube, it's going to be the same thing. But for me, it's Google. And Google always looks for new content, but new content that hasn't been mentioned. So if there's a certain topic, let's use the example about powerlifting, right? For seniors over 65, if I just take articles that are already written and use some AI to kind of regurgitate them in some sort of way, that's not really going to help me. And it's not going to help the algorithm in any way. And I know this for a fact. I'm not guessing on this. I know this for a fact. And like I said, I have over 70 plus, well, I had over 70 plus successful websites. More than half are sold. And very soon, I mean, in the next maybe 15 days, I'll have sold most of them. But anyways, the new content has to be real, valuable information that had not yet been on the internet effectively. And so that's essentially how you're going to start ranking on Google. Now, once again, not everybody's going to use Google. Some people don't want to write articles. Some people purely want to make TikTok videos. Some people want to make YouTube videos. Some people, I don't know. Some people want to run ads, right? Everybody's a little bit different as to how they're going to acquire their traffic. My goal is not to kind of get into that. There's a lot of different aspects to that. Very difficult in nature to stick to one thing and do it very, very well. But you can get little pieces here and there from different areas. My personal approach was Google articles because that's what I had mastered over time. Everybody has a different approach. So, and you'll be the chooser of that. In fact, if you're watching this far into the video, because this video is kind of long, if you're watching this far into the video, tell me what is going to be the traffic source that you are interested in, okay? But anyways, so these are different examples of how you can niche down. Tomorrow, I will be releasing a video on a new topic, and I'll be kind of building out a business plan effectively of the exact niche that I'm going to be using. I'm going to tell you exactly how I'm going to monetize everything. I'm going to essentially draw it all out for you, and I'm going to explain it all. All right? Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully this video helps. I'll talk to you soon. All right? Peace out. Bye.